Jed Hoyer has to make the postseason in 2025 to keep his job, right?
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Sam Olver, and I'm a lifelong fan, taking my passion into a discussion with you on all things Cubs. Thank you for being part of the show and making Locked On Cubs your first listen today. And the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day, like the video, and comment anything below. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You could start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome in. Happy Friday, everybody. And I have a fun show for you today where I really want to discuss a couple of reports that were, I don't want to say big deals on Thursday, but interesting to say the least. And that was Patrick Mooney and Sahadev Sharma over at The Athletic have a great podcast called The North Side Territory. I listened to that before the show today, and they were talking about how, it's a really good podcast. I recommend listening to it because those guys have a lot of inside info, and they don't give you the inside info on the podcast by any means, but they hint at things, and I think they do a good job of kind of steering you in a direction and managing expectations. And they were talking about how, and I think it was Patrick Mooney was talking about how the Cubs don't feel this pressure to have this win now philosophy, go all in for a year or two. They're really more focused about just putting a good product out every year, or at least a competitive one, which matches, I think, a lot of the frustration of the fans, because the fans for years have been saying, well, Tom Ricketts just wants to be good enough to fill the seats and fill Wrigley, and that's it, and that kind of report to me, it just made it seem like the Cubs weren't, feeling. And again, I apologize in advance to the great Boog Shambi. I'm sorry. I'm going to use this word. It just felt like the Cubs didn't have a ton of urgency to build that 90-plus win team that Craig Counsell was yearning for at the end of the season when he did that interview, at the end of the season. And then the other report was Ken Rosenthal came out and said that rival executives believe the Cubs want to trade Cody Bellinger and are attempting to trade Cody Bellinger. And then the rest of the report was about the return, but it wasn't, I didn't get the vibe that it was, hey, let's trade Cody Bellinger so we could open up spots and go get a big offensive bat. It was more, hey, let's just get rid of this salary and open up some slots for some younger guys. And so that led me to this episode today, where I just think that most of us, including me, feel like if the Cubs come up short in 2025 of the postseason, that it should automatically mean that Jed Hoyer and that regime is moved on from. And here's why I believe that. After the Cubs have won, in 2015, 16, 17, 18, the run that they had, the expectations, they rise. You don't go backwards. You don't go back to being a laughing stock. You don't go back to being the lovable losers. This is a team that has garnered a ton of revenue from the World Series run and that Theo Golden era, and the expectation should be higher. That's a part of winning. That's a part of greatness. And I don't think any Cub general manager or president of baseball operations, whether it's Theo, Jed Hoyer, or anybody else, should be excused to have 5 consecutive seasons without playing postseason baseball, because that's what this would be if the Cubs don't make it in 2025. It would be 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. And we know that 21, they sold off at the end of the year, and 22 is a rebuilding year. So really it would only be year 3. But this is the Cubs, man. This isn't a different organization. But the reason why I am starting to get some cold feet and doubting that, let's say the Cubs win 85, 86, 87 games this year, but they come up short of the playoffs, I'm starting to think that it's not an automatic that Jed will be gone and this regime will be gone, because if that was the case, and all this is speculative on my end. I just feel like the Cubs would be more aggressive. And now, granted, the offseason hasn't even got underway yet. The Cubs could be keeping things close to their vest. They could be, playing a little bit of rope-a-dope, and on some random day in December, they could make a huge move. But everything that I'm hearing from people that we trust, I mentioned Patrick Mooney, Sahadev Sharma, and the Bleacher Nation articles, it doesn't seem like the Cubs are being super aggressive for that big bat in free agency. Maybe they do it via trade. Uh, all the things that are being, reported on, hey, the Cubs are getting better on the margins, and, they're already out on Juan Soto before the offseason even begins, and add Corbin Burns. Now maybe they don't even go after a Max Fried. And it's like, you just put that together and you say to yourself, is that what the messaging would be from an organization that feels a ton of pressure, and a front office, more importantly, a front office that feels a ton of pressure to win right now and make the postseason? Now, there also could be an alternative of, hey, Tom Ricketts has told Jed, this is your mess that you made, even though we've talked about it's not really a mess. It's not a bad situation. But hey, this is your organization that you built. I'm not spending any more money. You need to find a way to win like this, the way that we talked about. And even if he doesn't win, he's still gone. But Tom's just not going to help him anymore. Like that's a possibility as well. But I'm getting the vibe, and I guess the purpose of this segment is to just give a little bit of a warning of, if this is an 85 and 77 win club and they come up 2-3 games short, I'm not sure it automatically means that Jed Hoyer is going to be relieved of his duties. It just doesn't feel that way. If it did, I just feel like there would be a little bit more, and again, forgive me, Boog, urgency around this offseason. But it's early. This is all speculative. It's very early in the process. But, I think right now we're all in a position where the expectation is for the Cubs to add a pitcher in free agency, maybe via trade, and then maybe they add a position player bat. But by all accounts, it feels like it's going to be more of the utility level unless they trade Bellinger. And then, as we talked about last week, 2 timeline things: open up a space for Casey, open up a space for Shaw, maybe Ballesteros. Does PCA take the next step forward? And at the end of the year, Jed is telling you guys, hey, I know we won 84 games, 85 games. I know we want more, but really cool things are happening. Look at the step forward PCA took. Look at the step forward Matt Shaw took. We have a new young core of players that we're really excited about. And I could see that happening. And so that's the point, I guess, of this segment, is to just say, like, I don't agree with it. Please don't mistake this with me defending it. I'm just telling you that the signals that are coming out of Clark and Addison are very much like, hey, we're in a really good spot. We're not super anxious to spend a ton of money. We're not super anxious to build this win now thing. We're going to try and win baseball games like we've been doing, but we're going to try and also develop young guys and be very cost conscious. So we'll have to see what happens. The biggest plot, the biggest storyline for me is, how does Craig Counsell feel about all this? Because Craig Counsell came out publicly and said, hey, we got to build a 90-win team. The Cubs are like, I don't know what the definition is, guys, of what a 90-win team looks like before the year starts. Does that mean your Vegas over-under should be 89.5? That's really hard to do. But as Matt and I talked about, I think if FanDuel were to put out lines right now, I think the Cubs are right about an 82-win club right now. They'll probably make a couple additions, pitcher, maybe a trade, whatever. My guess is opening day, best case scenario, they're at about 85.5, maybe 86.5 if they really have a good offseason. So is that the definition? So would Craig be upset about that? Or is the definition of building a 90-win team on paper before the season goes internally? So would the Cubs have an internal projection? Hey, Vegas has us at 86, but we feel like we're at 90 wins. Regardless of what it is, excuse my nasally cold here. I apologize. Whatever it is, it's going to be a long road this offseason to get this team where we go, hey, the expectation here is to win 90 games. Let's just talk about it. What would they have to do to get that? I'd say that they'd have to add a free agent pitcher, probably trade for another pitcher. So let's say it's like a Kikuchi and maybe a Mariners pitcher, something like that. And then I think they would have to go out and get a major bat. And by doing that, maybe they trade Bush or Horner or Paredes. We've talked about this a ton. And they bring in a Vlad Guerrero, or they bring in, Matt suggested a Kyle Tucker if that were possible. We don't even know if that's possible. They bring in they're able to trade Bellinger, so they sign a Santander. But as Matt pointed out, even if you do something like that, is he that much better than Cody Bellinger, in a projection standpoint, right? They are far away from being a projected 90-win team. Their ceiling, is probably about 92, 93 wins with what we're doing, and their floor is probably about 78, 79, 80, and they're right in that mid-80s, and it's just, I'm not sure I see a path for them to create a 90-win team before the season starts, at least on paper. They could definitely, sorry again to roll your eyes, outperform projections and get there. But to create this 90-win team that Craig wants to see, a 90-win roster, which I think he means just like, hey, going into the year, we feel like we have some margin for error and we're a really good team. They would have to shake a lot of things up and make some really bold moves and show a lot of urgency in the offseason. And the purpose of what I'm trying to say is it just early on, we're a week out from Thanksgiving. It just doesn't feel like that's happening. And, it all goes back to, does that mean Jed feels safe? Obviously he hasn't gotten a contract extension yet, so he can't feel that safe. But I just wonder what the conversation has been between Jed and Tom and what he needs to accomplish in 2025 to keep his job for beyond. Is there a specific win total, or is it just, hey, let's make sure we're competitive. Let's be there till the very end. And I want to see these young guys take a step forward to create hope and promise for the organization. What if that's the case? I don't know. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Is it 100% Jed has to make the postseason in your eyes or else he's done? I feel that way. But, are you guys sensing the same thing where that may not specifically be the case? There was some good news that dropped Thursday and earlier in the week about the Cubs, and we're going to talk about that coming up next. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Whether it's a Cubs game, a comedy show, or a concert, I love going to live events. And now Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. The experience of searching for and then buying tickets on Game Time is simple. Plus, Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app. What time is it? It's game time. We are back here on Locked On Cubs, and the Cubs got some good news on Thursday, if you care about such a thing, and I think it's pretty cool. Shota Imanaga finished 5th in the NL Cy Young Award voting, which I thought was pretty cool. That was a lot higher than a lot of people thought he would finish. And so I did a little research today, and I'll give you guys a second if you want to guess at home. But I found out since 2000, pretty much all the guys that have finished top 5 in Cy Young Award voting for the Cubs. I'll give you like 5 seconds if you want to guess at home to see. He joined a list of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys, I believe, since 2000 have finished top 5 in Cy Young Award voting for the Chicago Cubs. Okay, here they are. Justin Steele in 2023, Yu Darvish in 2020, John Lester in 2016, Kyle Hendricks in 2016. Of course, Jake Arrieta won the award in 2015. How about this, guys? I got a kick out of this. Carlos Zambrano, 3 top 5 finishes, 04, 06, 07, Mark Pryor in 03, and then the forgotten one, John Lieber, won 20 games in 2001. So, it's so funny. It just keeps feeling like every time we have a conversation about Shota, we say, he continues to be the light that shines through this Cubs organization. Because look, the moves that the Cubs made on Wednesday with Eli Morgan and I don't really consider the Theis thing to be really significant at all. That was a good move. So it's not like the Cubs are off to a bad start or anything. I'm not trying to paint this negative picture of the offseason, but just the messaging just makes it seem like, hey, like we're going to make some moves. We're going to get better. We're not going to, do these tons of things. And then every other day, something great with Imanaga comes out. Matt and I named him our player of the year this week. And he finished top 5 in Cy Young. He's always doing these funny, clips or videos. It's just, he continues to carry on through and drag us through this time. So congrats to him. And then the other piece of news that I wanted to share is that Ben Zobrist made the Hall of Fame nominees for 2025. He joined a new list of Ichiro, Sabathia, Carlos Gonzalez, Felix Hernandez, Hanley Ramirez, Dustin Pedroia, among guys that carried over. And I think that's a great honor for Ben Zobrist. I just wanted to share that. He's not going to get in by anything, but that's for a guy like that to basically really invent, or maybe not invent, but perfect the utility position and all the big moments he had. I think like that's such a cool honor for him to even make that list, and I think it's deserving. I'm glad that he got in. To me, he is, on my short list of favorite Cubs of all time, even though he wasn't here for a super long time, because, you guys hear me talk about it all the time. I value clutch. I value big moments, and I'll never forget November 2nd, 2016. Our heads are all down. We gave up a huge lead. Rajay Davis hits a home run, and it's 2 on, 1 out. And we needed a clutch hit, or it was man on second, 1 out. Rizzo gets walked, and I stood up. I'm like, this is it. This is going to happen. This is what Zobrist is here for. He's going to deliver, and you just can't put a price on that. You can't put a value on that. And so I am very grateful that Ben Zobrist was a Cub, and I'm very happy for him that he is on that list. That's always cool to make that list. I think Ben Zobrist is a Hall of Very Good guy. Not a Hall of Fame guy, but a Hall of Very Good guy, and it's well deserved. And so, before I get to best and worst, I just want to say this. Talking about, going back to the first segment just for a second, you don't want to overlook messaging. So I know that, things that are coming out don't sound good, and I'm reporting it, and a lot of people are probably going to say, hey, Sam, like, that's just what they're saying. Let's see what they do. 100%. 100%. The point that I just wanted to make is that I think we all feel like this is a must-win postseason year for Jed. And I just would think that an organization or a president of baseball ops that feels like that, again, would have a little bit more urgency, a little bit more messaging. Hey, we're trying this. We're going to do whatever we can. And it does just feel like the Cubs are pretty content with where they're at. They're going to get better in different places and so on and so forth. So we'll have to see. Again, the Cubs can still be a really, really good team in 2025. It's just trending towards, in order to do that, are you ready for it? Let's do it together. 3, 2, 1. They have to outperform internal expectations. Man, what an exciting slogan that is. Coming up next, we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk best and worst of the week. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. The Bears are still 3.5-point underdogs at home against Minnesota. I like them everywhere except this part of the game. Brian Flores, defensive coordinator for the Vikings. He is really good at disguising defenses when he's blitzing, when he's not, when he's dropping back. His scheme is tricky for a rookie quarterback, and with our offensive line struggles handling the blitz, that's probably going to be my signal to stay away from this game. I think the Bears will keep Minnesota from scoring a lot. Maybe the under is a good play in this game on FanDuel. I don't think Minnesota's as good as their 8-2 record is, but Brian Flores is a heck of a defensive coordinator, and I think he's going to make it tough for a rookie quarterback, so we'll see. But it'll be an interesting game on Sunday. I won't be watching. Remember, you get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet on FanDuel. It's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports book partner of the NFL. We are back here on Locked On Cubs, and it is time for best and worst of the week. And my pessimistic nature, I like to always start with my worst. And my worst is a piggyback off of my worst last week. If anyone remembers, my worst last week was this Tyson-Jake Paul fight. And my worst this week is money in sports. And I understand it's what drives sports. I understand without money, there is no sports. I get it all. But you watch that fight last week, and you just like, man, what are people going to do? What are these two guys doing to make a buck? Mike Tyson is a sports legend. He's had one of the most polarizing, enticing, controversial careers in the history of sports. At one time, maybe the most famous athlete, in the country in the late 80s, and then some, and then, his up and down stuff. And it's like, I want to remember Mike Tyson in that regard in the 80s and 90s, and having to watch him fight like that just because it makes money. It was just a really tough thing to watch. And then, I'm reading these reports about how Tom Brady has to be really careful because he can't overly criticize guys when he's announcing because he's part owner of a team. But of course, the question would be, then why is he broadcasting? Well, he's broadcasting because he's getting a ton of money. And the reason why he's getting a ton of money is because advertisers love Tom Brady, so they're going to flock to him as well. So it's just money for everybody. But, when money takes away from the product, that's what frustrates me. And of course, the best example close to home is our beloved Cubbies. It's like Tom Ricketts is making money like everybody said. It's like, let's put that in the baseball product, not, everywhere else. It's just, sometimes it just gets frustrating, and too much of anything is not good. And sometimes too much of money is not good. That last Friday night, watching that fight was hard. That was not a good event. No matter what they tell you, how many people watch, great. That was a bad event, and I did not enjoy it. My best of the week, I'm going to keep it simple. I like this time of year. Thanksgiving week, as I've gotten older, has become a really good, relaxing time at work. There's things on. I just wish the Bears were playing meaningful football on Thanksgiving. That would have been fun. But you got baseball off season hitting up, college basketball getting started, the NFL, college football, Thanksgiving, getting to spend time with the family, long weekend. This is one of the better times of year, and I would probably say that Thanksgiving is probably at the top of my list, maybe my favorite holiday. So hopefully I'll be in a good mood next week, where we're going to talk about more moves. Maybe the Cubs make another trade. And, it was just so awesome. I'll just close the show with this. And I mentioned this yesterday. You guys are the best. Like, I'm sitting here and I work from home a lot during the week, and I'm sitting here and the Cubs get Eli Morgan. My Twitter, I got tons of DMs. I got tons of texts, and it's just awesome. It's every time I get frustrated with the Cubs or with what the Cubs are doing, that frustration goes away because our listeners are so fun and so into it and so strong, just like we are, that it's like, it just makes me feel like we're all part of a big community, and it makes it a lot easier to be frustrated. And when things go well, it's always fun to be a part of. So keep it up, man. You guys are really fun, and hopefully we get some good moves this offseason and can feel good about our ball club. Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Cubs. You give us 20 to 30 minutes. We'll give you all things Cubs with a laugh or two along the way. Be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube, smash the like button for the algorithm, and leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. I'm Sam Olber, and this is Locked On Cubs.